Hello, today I'm welcoming this lady who grew up in the hills of Himachal Pradesh. Her love for English literature started early in early childhood. She went on to complete her post graduation and MPhil in English literature. Besides being an avid reader, she is a hardcore movie buff. Widely traveled, she instinctively connects with people and can chat to anyone for hours. This is also fuel for her imagination and often the genesis of her stories. Currently, she lives in New Delhi with her husband, where she continues to elicit smiles. Her book, Half Truths, is published by Invincible Publishers, and today we will get a sneak peek into the wonderful person that she is. I heartily welcome Jyoti Bish on this interview. Hi.
Thank you. Hi, I'm very happy to be here with you.
Jyoti, can you tell me something about yourself?
Okay. As I just said, I started my education from Welham Girls in Dehradun. And then I went on to All Saints College in Nainital, where I completed my education. So I've lived in the hills all my life, as my biodata says, and I love the hills. And after that, of course, I did my post-graduation from Shimla and my MPhil also from Shimla. And I've been a university rank holder through my education. After once I got married, I came to Delhi and then I took up a job. I did my B.Ed from CIE over here, and then I took up a job as a teacher. And I've been teaching. I was teaching for the last 35 years before I retired. And those 35 years have been perhaps the best years of my life because I really, really loved my profession. As a teacher, it was really, really wonderful.
And, what hobbies do you have? What do you do when you're not, teaching or writing? Like that personal thing that you do for your own happiness or own peace of mind.
Reading, I'm very fond of reading, though I don't get much time now because with lots of other things happening. But reading has always been something which I've always enjoyed ever since I was a little kid, Besides that, I love listening to music. I love watching movies. I love gardening. I'm very fond of knitting, which most people get quite fascinated by because nobody knits. But I'm very fond of it. It's a very soothing thing. That's what all I think.
Even I had started knitting. Like in between, I thought I can knit. It went bad. Like I couldn't do that. It needs patience. It needs patience.
Not much of patience. Once you get good at it, it's a quick thing, and it's very good for the mind. It pacifies the mind. When you're knitting, it's a repetitive exercise, so it kind of calms down your mind, and then you are at peace with yourself.
So I can't start that.
Yeah, I don't meditate. Knitting is like meditation.
So, do you think that because you have been a reader all your life and that has somehow influenced you into being an author, into writing your own book?
Yes, it has to, I think. If you read, the next step obviously is to write. Though, of course, I had never consciously ever thought that I would be an author or a writer or whatever. I like writing. I love writing. I was good at writing right from the school. I got very good grades for my essays and everything else that was there. But I had never thought that I would actually take it up really seriously as a writer. Once I retired, I had a lot of time. School, I did a lot of writing for the school. I would write all the scripts for the school plays, whatever was happening in school, the speeches, everything. All the written work came to me. I did that very happily. So that was the big. So the creativity went all over there, doing the annual functions, whatever had to be done. Once I retired, obviously all that stopped. But still, there was a desire to, write. I think everybody keeps imagining something or the other in their minds, I think from childhood, children also have this habit of living in a kind of a,
fantasy world.
Fantasy world that is their imagination. And I think that has stayed with me always. And there are lots of stories that keep running around my head all the time. So some of them I thought I should write down. Once I started writing them down, I shared them with my daughter. And she liked them and she says, why don't you get them published? I didn't take her seriously. But when I had done about 10, 12 of them, so then my husband also insisted. He says, come on, let's get them published. And that's how it came about. But
So-
I had never really. Yes.
And how did, like, obviously now you told me how the idea of the writing the book came about, how we started. But what is this book about exactly? Half truths, like.
Half truths, as it says, is half truths. It is a collection of short stories, as it says. There are different types of stories. Okay, there are all kinds of stories, ranging from ghost stories to stories about people or whatever. So there are a lot of different types of stories.
So they are from
And-
different genre.
Yeah, they're different. Okay, and most of them, of course, like I think it happens with the most writers, you tend to draw on your own personal experiences. So most of the stories started with some personal experience that I'd had. I'd seen something, or I'd heard something, or whatever, and then I changed that into a story. So it's a half truth. There's some truth about my life which is there in it, whatever, and of course the rest is fiction.
So
That's
your
why it's called-
interaction with different people gave you the inspiration to write these short stories.
Yes, I love listening to people. I love talking to them and finding out more and more about them. And that makes it very interesting, because then when you start thinking of a story, I mean, that's how it is with me. When you think of a story, you actually get into it and you start living that story. So all, the characters, and then you start thinking like the character. So it's a lot of fun, So it's basis of the people you've met, you wonder why they are like that, or why they said this, or why they did whatever. And that gets the thought process going. And once you've got a character, then you've got some kind of a thing to build around it, and the story happens,
Yeah.
So that's how it is with me.
Another point I would like to ask you, like, were there some tips that you used for writing your book, to completing your book? Or like, these were short stories, so maybe you wrote it in one sitting. It was not on over days or something. Or did you build that up? Like, what tips did you?
It took a couple of days. One day, one sitting, you can't do it. I think it takes at least maybe about 4 or 5 days to write a story. It took me about 4 or 5 days. One, I'm very impatient. I can't sit for very long. So that also didn't happen. So I would sit for about an hour, 1.5 hours, write a little bit, and then move on. And plus, while the story is going on, like I said, you enter into the world of the story. And it's constantly playing at the back of your mind, no matter what your daily activities are. You keep thinking, this is also a possibility, that can happen like this, also this, And you keep incorporating it into the story as it goes along. So sometimes you have to go back to change something, because you've come to the end, and the end is requires some coordination with what happened at the beginning. So it takes a little time. I think it takes about 4 or 5 days. And like I said, I don't have patience, so short stories is all that I can write. I can't write more than that.
So are you coming
That's
with a
too
new
much.
book then? Are you coming with a new book of short stories?
Yes, my family is quite happy with the short stories I've written. So they've been, I said, I
Urging
just
you.
kind of got the book now.
Yeah.
So they started nudging me already. You better get around, writing. So yes, I am starting with something now already. I have started thinking of a story that's going on in my mind.
And hopefully
yes,
it
started
completes
a bit-
soon. Hopefully it completes
Yes, I
soon.
hope so too.
And we will be
Yes,
publishing
yes,
it.
Yes, I hope so too.
Um,
Yes.
What advice would you like to give to other writers or other authors from your experience?
From my experience, like I said, I don't know whether I am in a position to advise anybody on this matter, because I've just become an author, and an author not who wanted to be an author, And but yes, as a personal experience, I think you should enjoy every bit of it. You should enjoy, like I said, living the story while you're at it. The characters,
process.
enjoy the character, get to know them, understand them. The process, yes. So it should be an enjoyable thing. It shouldn't be something which is a compulsion and that kind of a thing that you have to do it or whatever.
Like, I have to
Something that
write
comes
this
with automatic.
monotonous, like I have to
Yeah.
write, or like I have to complete certain words, or putting in
Yes, yes.
unnecessary things.
To me, I don't think so that would work. It should be something which you want to do. So you do it when you want to do it.
And this is
So, of
especially
course,
for novels and fantasy fiction, that kind of books.
Though of course, the good writers are all very disciplined. They do, a certain number of words every day or whatever it is. That is, which is like maybe I will come to it someday if I continue writing. But at the moment, no, I'm not disciplined as a writer. I think
You
I
started
write when
late.
I feel like, when I have enough. Yeah, I started very, very late.
But anyway, never too late
again,
to be an author. Yeah.
Never too late.
So Jyoti, thank you for your time today. It was wonderful talking to you. I learned a lot about you as well. And I hopefully our listeners and whoever watching it, they also learned a lot about you.
I hope they do.
Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. Okay.
Thank you for taking the time in the hot summer evening.
Now I've calmed down. It's better. Now it's cooled down. So I was because I just finished with the kitchen and everything else, and like how your mother. Kitchen is one sweat place. You go there and you're drenched after it.
Yeah, every time. So that's why she ends up pushing me into it. So yay for me. I'll end our session here today. Obviously, this is going to be edited out.
Yeah.
Our small talks. But yeah. Ciao.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.